Denton, Texas doesn't just pull water from its lakes. Up to 40% of every glass was flushing through a toilet just days ago, pushed back into the system by only 2 pumps that can never stop. If both fail tonight, the city's razor-thin reserve runs empty in less than 48 hours. 40 miles northwest of Dallas, in the heart of North Texas, sits Denton, a once quiet college town that's exploded to 170,000 residents. It anchors a county now topping 1 million people, all circling the same pair of glittering reservoirs you'll see on the map, Lake Louisville and Lake Ray Roberts. Denton County looks like a water paradise on a map. 2 huge, gleaming reservoirs dominate its eastern half, yet the city of Denton controls only a sliver of what those lakes hold. The imbalance began almost a century ago when Dallas, already far larger and thirstier than its northern neighbor, decided to secure its own future by building dams on the Elm Fork of the Trinity River. In 1927, it financed the Garza Dam, creating the original Lake Dallas. City leaders in Denton were invited to buy storage rights, but declined, doubting they'd ever need that much water. Dallas gladly took the full allocation. That decision instantly tilted the playing field. Dallas treated the new lake like a private reservoir, even trying to ban swimming and boating in the 1930s to protect its own water quality. Denton County officials refused to enforce the rule, residents kept swimming, and the episode hardened local resentment. Dallas had built the lake in Denton's backyard, but tried to dictate its use. When post-war growth demanded more capacity, Dallas doubled down. In 1955, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, largely at Dallas's urging, completed a larger dam downstream, transforming Lake Dallas into today's far bigger Lake Louisville. Dallas retains the overwhelming share of water rights. Denton, recognizing its earlier mistake, negotiated a token allotment, but still only received about 5% of the firm yield. From that point through the 1980s, Denton routinely had to buy raw water from Dallas, drawn from a lake inside its own county to keep its taps running during hot summers. The pattern repeated with Lake Ray Roberts, authorized by Congress in 1965 and impounded in 1987, this time upstream of the city. Dallas and Denton did split the project cost, but Dallas again took the majority allocation. Denton's share, roughly 20 million gallons a day, proved inadequate once its own population boomed past 150,000. By 2000, summer demand neared 40 million gallons a day, well beyond Denton's combined surface water rights. Because Dallas maintains about 95% ownership across both reservoirs, it effectively controls releases, long-term planning, and until recently, most of the credit for wastewater that flows back into Lake Louisville. Denton's leaders realized they needed a new lever and seized on indirect use, capturing fully treated effluent, sewage, pumping it back upstream, then counting it as new supply. In 2010, after tense negotiations, Dallas agreed Denton could reclaim up to 12 million gallons a day of its own return flows, just enough to balance current demand on paper. But that arrangement also bound Denton's drinking supply to 2 high-lift pumps and a single wastewater plant. If the pumps fail, or if the effluent falls out of compliance, Denton loses the water that closes its daily gap. Thus, the lakes that surround Denton symbolize both abundance and dependence. Built with Dallas money, governed by Dallas contracts, and yielding water primarily for Dallas taps, they leave Denton riding a thin margin, forced to recycle yesterday's toilet water because the reservoirs visible from every drone shot are, in legal terms, barely Denton's at all. Denton's operating buffer is wafer thin. The city stores about 23 million gallons of finished water, yet a triple-digit summer day can draw 21 million gallons. That leaves barely 30 hours of pressure if production stops. 3 realistic failures could start that 30-hour clock. Every gallon of Denton's quote-unquote bonus supply rides on 2 350 horsepower pumps at the Pecan Creek Water Reclamation Plant. Those motors push 12 million gallons a day of fully treated effluent back uphill to Lake Louisville. Lose both, and the indirect reuse stream goes flat. A near miss has already happened. On the night of June 21st, 2011, a severe storm threw a lightning bolt into the Louisville Raw Water High Service Station, the same site that lifts Denton's treated blend toward the distribution grid. 2 of 3 raw water pumps tripped, soft starts fried, and SCADA screens went black for 13 minutes. Operators recovered 1 pump manually and kept the city above the regulatory pressure floor, but they admitted afterward that if the final starter had failed, or if both feeders had flashed, Denton's net production would have plunged by roughly 17 million gallons in the first 24 hours. That single event is the playbook for what could happen if both reuse pumps at Pecan Creek go down today. Stage 3 emergency restrictions by dawn, empty storage sometime the following night. Drought restrictions in Denton may not affect you. You probably don't live in Denton. If you'd like to learn more about the water situation in your town, Texas Water Security offers a free, customized report anywhere in the United States. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to learn more about your water, even if you don't live in Denton. Pecan Creek's headworks sit downstream of an interstate and a cluster of chemical depots. An overturned tanker of herbicide or a runaway slug of industrial ammonia would spike total organic carbon or nitrogen beyond permit limits, and under TCEQ rules, Denton must halt indirect reuse pumping until effluent meets spec. The plant can't deliberately cycle contaminated water back into its own drinking supply, nor should it. With a 12 million gallon a day lifeline severed, the 30-hour cushion collapses to a single August day. A raw water intertie to Dallas exists, but it tops out around 16 million gallons a day and still needs Denton staff and lab to keep up. That's hard to guarantee in a hazmat incident that might scatter operators or inspectors. Indirect reuse math secretly depends on citizens flushing, showering, and laundering at normal volumes. But when extreme drought orders clamp down on that use, no lawn watering, restaurant patrons asked to skip refills, indoor use drops as well. Less wastewater reaches Pecan Creek, shrinking the credit Denton may legally reclaim. During the milder 2022 drought, effluent fell from 11 to 7 million gallons a day. Demand fell too, so the system coped. But picture a hotter, longer dry spell. Indoor use dips, outdoor watering is already banned, yet peak temperatures could send total demand back above 40 million gallons a day. If effluent slides below 5 million gallons a day while demand climbs, Denton faces a 10+ million gallon shortfall that storage alone cannot bridge. Whether it's lightning like 2011, a chemical spill, or even residents doing too good of a job conserving water, Denton's dependence on one reuse loop that depends on 2 pumps means the 30-hour reserve is always 1 accident away from running dry. When you flush in Denton, the journey to your next drink starts immediately. Wastewater leaves your house and travels a few miles to Pecan Creek Water Reclamation Plant. There it moves through 4 treatment walls in rapid succession. Pre-screen and grit removal, where coarse bar racks and vortex chambers strip out wipes, sand, and plastic shards. You have the biological basins, where trillions of hungry bacteria in aerated tanks break down ammonia and organic carbon until what's left is mostly clear water and harmless nitrate. Bed sand filters polish the water to remove final turbidity and any stray microbes that made it through, followed by a final disinfection, where ultraviolet light scrambles the DNA of any virus or parasite that managed to make it through. Add in a final dose of chlorine, and that keeps the water stable and sanitary in the pipeline. At this point, the water is fully Title 22 and Texas Type 1 reclaimed, meeting the same bacteriological standards as most small bottled water plants. Now the lifeline, the 2 350 horsepower vertical turbine pumps that lift as much as 12 million gallons a day, 40 feet uphill and 5 miles south through a dedicated 24-inch main. The destination is a diffuser a few yards off the shore of Lake Louisville, a federal reservoir whose conservation pool sits inside Denton County, but whose legal water is, as we've seen, mostly owned by Dallas. The reclaimed flow mixes with millions of gallons of lake water for several days, gaining what regulators call environmental buffering. From there, Denton's drinking water treatment plant pulls the blend through intake screens and gives a second, conventional treatment: coagulation, dual media filtration, granular activated carbon polishing, and a final chloramine disinfectant. Only after passing every Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ parameter, turbidity, coliform, lead, copper, PFAS marker tests, does the water enter Denton's distribution grid and eventually the faucet of residents. There are some myths about treated wastewater, number one being that reused water is less safe. The truth is, Denton's reclaimed stream meets stricter pathogen limits than the untreated lake water that Dallas has relied on for decades. UV plus dual disinfection cuts E. coli counts to non-detect long before the second treatment step. Others are concerned about chemicals slipping through the treatment process, but reverse osmosis grade removal isn't mandatory because the second full treatment and dilution in a 23 square mile lake knock the organics down far below state action limits. The plant still runs quarterly PFAS panels, and it has never failed a test. And the third is that it goes straight from sewage treatment to your faucet. That is not true because there's the environmental buffer of Lake Louisville. Essentially, it's nature's mixing bowl where the treated effluent is mixed with the existing lake water before it goes into the treatment plant. That buffer is why regulators approve the practice. The real risk is not contamination, but dependence. If either of those high-lift pumps shuts off for more than a few hours, the 12 million gallon a day bridge between Denton's legal supply and its daily demands disintegrates. Because the city stores only about 23 million gallons of finished water, roughly 30 hours of peak summer use, what's technically flawless today could leave faucets sputtering tomorrow, through no fault of filtration chemistry whatsoever. City Hall knows the margin is thin, and it isn't pretending otherwise. Denton's Public Utilities Department laid out a three-part plan in its 2024 Water Master Update. Some of it is already under construction, and some of it is still on the drawing board. The flagship project is a $195 million expansion of the Ray Roberts water treatment plant, financed with a low-interest SWIFT loan from the Texas Water Development Board. Rated at just 20 million gallons today, the plant will jump to 46 million gallons a day by the end of 2029 with ozone biofiltration, high-rate clarifiers, and a second high-service pump gallery. A 4 million gallon per day membrane skid is being fast-tracked for 2026, so capacity starts climbing before the main build-out is finished. Two new 2 megawatt diesel generators, one at the Pecan Creek WRP and one at the Ray Roberts intake, came online last summer. Each carries enough fuel for 72 hours and auto starts within 10 seconds of a grid loss. On the storage side, crews have poured foundations for a 3.5 million gallon elevated tank on the west side near Robeson Ranch and are grading a pad for a new 5 million gallon a day ground tank off of Spencer Road. Together, those projects add roughly 4 hours of peak day cushion once they're tied in. A 42-inch raw water intertie runs South Dallas Water Utilities, capable of delivering up to 16 million gallons a day if Denton's own production stalls. Operators crack the valve for a 2-hour test every month and flush the line quarterly to keep zebra mussel growth in check. It's a last resort, but the paperwork is current, and Dallas has honored short-term requests twice since 2015. Denton's stage-trigger drought plan kicks in when combined storage in Louisville and Ray Roberts sinks below 65%, or when demand stays above 85% of plant capacity for 4 straight days. Stage 1 bans daytime lawn watering. Stage 2 cuts it to once a week. Stage 3 outlaws all irrigation and car washing. Parallel programs swap 10,000 smart meters per year and rebate high-efficiency toilets, chasing a target of 92 gallons per capita per day by 2030. Does this solve the pump problem? Not entirely. Until the Ray Roberts upgrade is finished, and even afterward, the system still relies on the 2 reuse pumps at Pecan Creek to close its daily demand gap. The new generators and storage tanks buy a few extra hours, and the Dallas line can limp the city through a short outage, but the fundamental dependence on that recycled stream of effluent remains Denton's Achilles heel. That is until new raw water rights or deeper reuse options come online. Just when Denton thinks it has water quantity under control, quality is tightening the screws. The EPA has proposed slashing the legal limit for PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals, used in nonstick pans and firefighting foam, to 4 parts per trillion by 2026. Denton's plant meets today's standard, but conventional sand and carbon can't reliably hit that next generation target, and every cycle of indirect reuse can nudge PFAS levels a hair higher. Over time, recycling the same water concentrates the nasty forever chemical. City engineers admit they'll need costly new membranes down the line. Today you learned that Denton depends on recycled sewage to keep its taps flowing, and if just 2 pumps fail, the city loses its legal drinking supply. But here's the real question: what about where you live? Texas Water Security now offers a free, fully customized analysis of your water system, tailored to your zip code. Just scan the QR code or hit the link in the description. We'll ask you a handful of questions to make sure that that report is tailored to your situation. You'll get the same kind of deep, eye-opening report that you just saw for Denton, but focused entirely on your city, your risks, and your water. Don't wait for a drought, a boil notice, or a chemical spill to find out what you're up against. Click now to see how close your town is to the edge and what you can do to keep your family safe.